All right, sweet. Flatline MMA podcast episode number 73. We got a lot to talk about today, buddy. UFC 261. What an absolute banger of a card. Couldn't ask for a better pay-per-view. People complain about the price. People complain about the fight sometimes. This overall, from bottom to top, me and you were talking about this, one of the best pay-per-views we've ever seen. Just to get a little bit into the early prelims. First fight of the night, just absolute banger to, everything on the prelims, so goddamn good. The main card itself was just ridiculous. So I just want to get right into it, buddy. Main card, UFC 261, Anthony Smith taking on Jimmy Crute. Anthony Smith, someone who challenged for the title, right? Lost to John Jones. Could have hypothetically taken the belt from John Jones if he pulled an Aljamain Sterling, right? And he didn't do it. Been on a little bit of the cold streak, right? We saw him get his ass beat by Glover Teixeira. So we knew he was coming back with a vengeance here. Taking on Jimmy Crute. The guy's on an absolute tear. One of the best up-and-coming prospects we've seen in a while in that light heavyweight division, right? So I knew we were in for a banger, but I knew Crute was going to come out. He was going to be aggressive. And then friggin' tragedy just strikes, right? Anthony Smith lands. I wouldn't even say tragedy. I don't want to take that away from Anthony Smith. Perfectly timed kick to, I guess, the bottom of the knee, which is very similar to where Chito Vera hit Sugar Sean O'Malley. And Crute's leg just gives out. And what was so impressive about that sequence is Crute immediately took Anthony Smith down. Like, immediately took him down, was using ground and pound. The round was over. Crute couldn't even stand up, kept falling down. Ref calls it. Anthony Smith wins via, I guess we'll call it a TKO, right? Obviously, super disappointing way to end that fight. I thought it was going to be a banger. Crute getting that, second loss next to his name. That was tough to see, and him wanting to just continue on, but obviously we weren't going to let that happen, right? So I'm curious to get your thoughts on the fight and your thoughts on just like how fights should be scored. Like, do you think because of an injury like that and him not being able to like continue, like, should that have been like a TKO victory for Anthony Smith? I've always been going back and forth about that. It's like Smith obviously used that move, and that was great that he did that, but no other damage was taken by Crute in that fight. So it's just like so tough. So I don't know. What do you think? I know, going back to another Sugar Sean O'Malley incident, but what would you think about the fight?
Yeah. We had so many good fights, through the prelims. It was just gearing up to be an awesome card.
Yeah.
And when you have Anthony Smith versus Jim Crute, like, leading off the main card, it was just a fight that I was super excited for. But unfortunate that Crute couldn't continue. But he was arguing. He wanted to fight through that second round, but you can't fight a guy like Anthony Smith with one leg.
No.
It would have been bad news for him going into that second round. But those calf kicks are whatever they are completely changing the game. I mean, I don't even think Smith hit him with too many of them. I think it was just one really good one, just shut down his whole leg. So, yeah, crazy thing. But as far as it being a TKO, I don't know. I don't really understand that. But I don't know what else you would call it. I mean, they had to stop the fight, maybe doctor's stoppage, but not call it a TKO. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just tough because you hate to see fights end like that, especially with like a hot prospect like Crute going up against a vet. Like, that's a big fight for him. Like, that's a big statement. So it's tough to say like what's next, because you don't want to limit Anthony Smith and say, hey, let's run this one back. But you also you want to give Jim Crute like another opponent, because I feel like it's the same thing like the Sugar Sean fight. Like, Chito hit him perfectly in the leg, and that's like not taking anything away from those guys. That's a move in fighting, but it's just maybe that nerve. I don't think Jimmy Crute has anything long-term wrong with his leg or anything like that. Like, I think he's fine. I haven't seen any reports or anything like that saying that like he has any sort of damage. Like, it's just a nerve thing. So it's obviously tough to see. Jimmy Crute is still as tough as they come. Like, him wanting to continue and him just punching the cage after they called it was like so badass to see, because like you knew that he was ready to go out that second round. But like you said, Anthony Smith is an absolute dog, and he would have taken advantage of that anyway, and it probably would have finished the fight. But obviously, shout out those two. Was it actually, for the first 5 minutes of that fight, actually pretty entertaining, right? They were trading. It didn't look like Crute was the better fighter by any means. So I wish we got all 3 rounds of that. So it would have been a great fight. But obviously, hypothetically a finish. So kind of the way you want to see a pay-per-view start, right? And then we got the fight in the middleweight division next. Uriah Hall taking on Chris Weidman. I said tragedy struck in the first fight. Tragedy literally struck in the second fight. 17 seconds into the fight, Weidman goes for a leg kick and just wraps his leg around Uriah Hall's checked leg. Anderson Silva 2.0. I think everyone in the stands were shocked. The people we were watching the fights with couldn't believe it. I'm getting texts up the ass about people who don't even watch MMA that are like, what the hell happened? This was absolutely insane. Uriah Hall obviously winning via TKO. First fighter in history to win a fight without throwing one strike. Absolutely insane. You got to feel for Chris Weidman. I know he got surgery. Everything was successful. It's just crazy how there's been 3 leg breaks in the history of the UFC, and Weidman has been part of 2 of them. Like, that is insane to me. So obviously not too much to talk about there, but what did you think about just the incident, and what was going through your head when you initially saw his leg just turn into, spaghetti?
Yeah, obviously it's a super unfortunate thing, and you hope that Weidman's okay and he's going to recover fine from it. But it's also part of the reason why I love this sport so much, because you literally never know what's going to happen. Like, there's certain sports where, you know what's going to happen. Like, what to expect for the most part, what's going to happen throughout the game. But I don't know, for him to snap his leg 17 seconds, like offensively too, wasn't like, Hall kicked him in the leg and snapped his leg. It's just a crazy thing. It's just, I don't know, it's just the fight game. There's so many different avenues, like every single fight can go down. And yeah, this was definitely a crazy one.
Yeah, and it sucks it had to happen to a guy like Weidman, who has been so up and down, right? And I feel like this was the fight that was going to kind of resurrect him. He already has a win over Uriah Hall. So like, this was a rematch, right? And an opponent that he knows and who he beat, right? So, this was definitely kind of his coming home party. And to see that happen in 17 seconds, I don't think we're going to see Chris Weidman again in the octagon, especially with the losing streak he's been on. I know he got a win in his last fight versus Omari Medkov, but it's tough to come back from that. We saw what happened to Anderson Silva after he came back. It was never the same. So obviously, again, back-to-back fights with leg injuries, which again, that's got to be a first. But what, like you said, what a way to start off a pay-per-view with like probably the most unexpected thing. Like, again, aside from
mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing twice. I know Jimmy Crute didn't snap his leg in half, but it was a leg injury. The next fight, leg injury. And the fact that Uriah Hall just didn't throw a punch and he won, and sneaky on a 4-fight win streak right now. I think people don't understand. Like, I know that wasn't the most impressive win, but he still checked the kick. And my God, the videos of it just are, like you said, mind-blowing. It's his leg wraps entirely around Uriah Hall's leg. It's insane. Successful surgery. The pictures of the surgery are just absolutely insane. So obviously, shout out Chris Weidman. Hopefully, you're doing okay, back to walking. I know he said it's like a long rehab process, so hopefully he heals up there. But shout out Uriah Hall, sneaky 4-fight win streak. Hopefully you get a big fight next year. So, and let's get into the good stuff, boys and girls. We had not 1, not 2, but 3 title fights on the docket here. Let's get into the first one, women's flyweight championship of the world. We had one of the GOATs, Valentina Shevchenko, taking on the hard-hitting Jessica Andrade. This fight, I hate to say it, but I was kind of not torn, but I thought Andrade was going to give a little bit better of a fight. I thought she was going to throw some bombs. maybe put Valentina in some sort of trouble. Man, was I wrong. Valentina just dominating the fight from start to finish there. Just getting it done with, my God, vicious elbows on the ground. Valentina showing off that she has ground game. If you didn't just realize how good of a striker she was, now she's good on the ground. My God, no one's beaten her. Just dismantling Jessica Andrade in the second round, and to do it against a tough girl like Andrade, who's been in there with the best of the best, that was just scary to see. Like, Valentina is getting better, just like how Nunes is getting better in every fight. And I don't think she can be stopped. But I'm curious, what's your take on the fight here? Because just absolute domination by Valentina once again.
Yeah, I never bet against Valentina, and I did think that she was going to win the fight going in, but there was some question in my mind with Andrade, especially how she knocked out Rose. That was totally unexpected. And I think Rose had I forget who she had an interview with, but she said Andrade was probably one of the hardest hitters that she's ever fought. So, I mean, those just kind of a couple questions in my mind. If she's going to try to take it to the ground and go for a ground and pound, or if she could land on Valentina, how would she absorb that shot? But no, it's just classic Valentina. She just won every aspect of the fight in completely dominant fashion, and there's no one out for her right now.
No, and I know there's obviously Dana White was asked, hey, is Nunes Shevchenko 3 the fight to make? And he said no. He's like, I want them to build their own legacies, and then let's make an absolute just monster fight when, if Shevchenko wins another belt, whatever it is. She's just so dominant, man, that she was pissed off in there. She said it afterwards. She goes, I couldn't believe that people thought that Jessica was going to beat me. And she goes, that got me mad. And she said she wanted to showcase her ground game off. Like, can you imagine saying that? Like, I'm just not going to strike tonight. I'm just going to I want to prove to people that I can be on the ground. And she said she's not interested in the Nunes fight either right now. She wants to, start breaking, records for title defenses, all that, which she's already on her way to GOAT status, if not already the GOAT in that flyweight division anyway. I had an interesting question that was asked to DC. So DC basically said that Valentina is the better fighter of her and Nunes. But whenever they get locked in a cage, Nunes wins 10 out of 10 times. And DC's thought was Valentina's the better striker, right? She's quicker. She's obviously not as powerful. And she's just more fluid with her technique and everything. But he's like, Nunes just hits so hard. She's bigger, and she's just like a presence. And I thought about that for a while. It's like, do you believe that Valentina, I know she lost to Nunes twice, with the second one being, arguably could have went either way. But looking at fighters, for example, we're talking pound for pound, do you think Valentina is a better fighter than Amanda Nunes? Overall in her skills?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
The thing with Nunes is that she's so explosive, and she finishes people immediately in the first round. I think with Valentina, it takes her a little bit longer. There's a little bit, she's not a slow starter, but maybe a little bit slower of a starter than Nunes. But I think technically, the way she fights, I think all around, I think she's a better fighter than Nunes.
Yeah, that's why I didn't disagree with what DC had to say, because at first glance you're kind of like Nunes is obviously the better fighter. She beat her twice, but I agree. I think technically she's better. I mean, Nunes is just an absolute force to be reckoned with, and she has the power, but Valentina also has the power, but Nunes is just unmatched, right? She hits like a friggin' probably a 145 pound male, right? You know what I mean? She's an absolute house. So are you interested in seeing the trilogy? I'm not saying next, but at this point, Nunes has no one to face other than probably Kayla Harrison, who's already signed to another organization. So that's going to be at least a year. I know Nunes has the fight with Pena coming up, which we'll see how that goes. I don't have, any high hopes for Pena or anything, but like Shevchenko is just in a division where I think she's just unrivaled, the same as Nunes. And I think they're just going to keep throwing people at her. I'm being dead serious. I thought Andrade was going to put up a better fight. And I was like, this is going to be a great fight, but I don't know. What do you think about the trilogy? Do you think it's needed? Do you think it's going to determine the women's GOAT? Like, what do you think?
I think the only way it makes sense is, so what weight were they fighting at when they fought the first two times? Was that 135?
Yeah, that was at bantamweight. That was 135. Yep.
And yeah, I get so confused with the female weights. So there's Nunes is the champ of 135 and 45.
And 45, and then flyweight is Valentina. Straw was Whaley, obviously.
Okay, yeah. So I think if they do have a fight, Valentina would just have to move up and maybe not take the Nunes fight right away, but kind of get a little win streak and get comfortable and get kind of fill out a little bit in at 135 for that fight to make sense. Because the way I kind of think of it is like, remember when Max Holloway came up and fought Dustin Poirier?
Yeah.
And everybody thought, Holloway looked kind of small for 155. I think it might be the same type of thing where if this just the size is the difference, they're pretty equivalent when it comes to the skills in the fight in MMA, but with Nunes being naturally bigger and maybe a little bit stronger, and I would guess that she's probably taller and has a longer reach.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just all things that work in Nunes' favor that Valentina has no control of.
Yeah.
Unless she starts to work to kind of bulk up and become a stronger fighter at 135. But if she's just going to hop from 125 to 135 for that one fight, I don't know. I think she needs to cement herself in 135 if she wants to face Nunes again, and have a couple fights and fill out a little bit.
Yeah, she's just at this point, man, just too dominant, and it's getting to the point where it's like Andrade was her biggest challenge. I really feel that, and other than Nunes, of course, but Andrade didn't even look like the same fighter in there with her. She looked like a B-League fighter, and Valentina was toying with her on the ground, which was just super impressive. So what a way to start off the three title fights. Valentina and still shout out Andrade for being a tough motherfucker and, taking those elbows to the face. So let's get to the co-main event, women's strawweight. I think this was honestly more highly anticipated than the main event. This fight, you had Weili Zhang, the current women's strawweight champion. I mean, this girl's on a 19, 20 fight win streak, whatever it was, taking on Rose, former champion, looking to become a two-time champ. And we knew this fight was going to be fireworks. I'm not going to say I was shocked by the result, but my God, Rose Namajunas getting it done once again with a just monstrosity of a head kick, putting Weili down, some super necessary shots at the end. Weili gets up trying to say it was an early stoppage. I have no idea. She couldn't even walk. Rose Namajunas, and new strawweight women's champion of the world, doing Rose Namajunas things. She went full thug Rose that night. I wouldn't even say she shocked everyone, because we know what she can do. She knocked out Joanna. She beat Joanna in the rematch. But what did you think about this fight? Did you expect it to end by head kick? And overall thoughts? Because I think we all jumped out of our seats. We were going nuts.
Yeah, with the fight with Joanna versus Weili, I mean, she absorbed so many shots, and I don't know. I didn't think that she was gonna get knocked out in this fight. I was like, there's no way she's gonna eat more shots in this fight than she did in the Joanna fight. But yeah, Rose is just, I don't know if it's the team that she has or like her own like fight IQ, and she's able to see these holes in people's games. But I mean, she picked up on something immediately right in that first round, landed that head kick. I mean, she did the same thing with Joanna when we thought Joanna was unbeatable. She knocked her out in one round and then went and beat her again. And she did it with Andrade as well. You know, she was winning the first fight, ended up losing from the slam, but came back and won the second fight. So I don't know. She's just, yeah, she's got something else going on that these other fighters don't. It's either the preparation, the game planning, or it's just something that she's able to see things in there that other fighters can't.
Yeah, striking's ridiculous. Obviously, she's got one of the best coaches in the world, Trevor Whitman, who trains the likes of Kamaru Usman, Justin Gaethje, right? Like, obviously, just savages at that fight camp. I think her striking is just so much better than everyone else in that division. She is so dangerous for her size. Like, what she did to Joanna in that first fight will always impress me, because that was peak Joanna, like undefeated Joanna. She was beating the shit out of everyone, and she knocks her out in the first round, and then she beats the shit out of her in the rematch, and then she's beating the shit out of Andrade, and yeah, the unlucky slam, whatever, and then she beat the shit out of Andrade in the rematch. She is as tough as they come. And she's full thug Rose, man. Like, that was so great to see her crying in the octagon, like two-time champ. We're talking about Valentina, we're talking about Nunes, but Rose is kind of building her own legacy for strawweight GOAT, of course, right? So that was just great to see. She's like obviously awesome, and I know there was some controversy leading up to the fight with things she said about China and all that stuff, but she's so soft-spoken and she's such a badass. Do you think they are going to make a rematch right away because of the way it ended? It was a head kick, which I'm not saying that doesn't take skill or anything, but people tend to say fluke and all that crap. But obviously we all know Rose is a very skillful striker. Do you think the UFC makes that rematch right away? I mean, Rose has been in how many friggin' rematches? So that's why I'm thinking she's going to get another one.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the rankings. I don't know who else is there. I mean, she's, Rose obviously isn't going to fight Andrade. She isn't going to fight Joanna again.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who else is at the top of that division.
There's a few sneaky ones that could come through. Like, you got like Carla Esparza. I mean, you got Dern, who's kind of on a little bit of a streak, but I don't know if she's going to get a title shot next. You got Yan Xianin. I don't even know who that is. So there's a couple girls in there that could get a shot, but I'm most excited to see the rematch. We didn't get to see too much. Like, I would love to see them out. I didn't know if you were interested in that next or not.
Yeah, you know what? I think just looking at these rankings, that's probably what they'll do, and they'll keep the Whaley Joanna fight probably in their back pocket as a rematch, because that's one I definitely want to see again at some point. So yeah, that's probably the route that they'll go. But yeah, I mean, I'm not too familiar with the other female fighters. I know Joanna, I know Whaley, obviously, and yeah, Dern is making her way up the ranks. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's and this, the women's strawweight's definitely exciting right now, especially with Whaley's, who 100% is going to push for the rematch, and I think she deserves it, right? She was on a 20-fight win streak. Like, you don't just get there for no reason. She was the champion, right? They usually give the champion the benefit of the doubt and get that rematch. So I'm hoping they can book that maybe end of summer or something like that. I think that'd be an absolute banger to put on a summer card. So shout out to those two girls. Shout out to Thug Rose for just being a badass and for always putting on a show every single fight that she's in. Her striking is ridiculous. Trevor Whitman, Pat Barry, all those guys have groomed her to be just this absolute killer in there. So what a co-main event. I know it had us jumping off our seats, so that was just awesome to see. So Rose Namajunas, Thug Rose, and new women's strawweight champion of the world. Let's go right to the main event. We had the rematch, Kamaru Usman taking on Jorge Masvidal, rematch from last July. Masvidal taking the fight on 6 days' notice on Fight Island, filling in for the COVID-illed Gilbert Burns. First fight, really not the most exciting fight. Usman 50-45'd him, a lot of foot stomping, a lot of clinch work, a lot of takedowns. So I think a lot of people kind of thought this fight was going to be relatively the same, but Jorge putting Usman in a lot of trouble. He's got a full fight camp for this one. We've seen Jorge on a little bit of a run, knocking dudes out left and right, flying knees, whatever you want to call them. And, Kamaru's just been so dominant. We didn't think he was going to stand up with Jorge. And my God, were we wrong. And I don't think anyone in their mother bet Usman second round knockout, but what a goddamn right hand. One of the prettiest finishing sequences I've ever seen in my life. There's literally an image of Usman hitting Jorge and the sweat is just coming off of his head. Like he hit Jorge so hard, out cold, hit him with, again, some super necessary shots on the bottom, and lights out Kamaru Usman and still welterweight champion of the world. Rankings came out today. Usman is now the pound for pound #1 fighter in the world, which is definitely well-deserved here. Break down this fight and how shocked were you that Usman gets a knockout finish over the never been finished Jorge Masvidal? I believe he got submitted. I don't think he ever been knocked out in the UFC. Break it down for me, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen the fight before, so Usman won pretty dominantly the first time around. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So I thought he was going to go for the same thing, but with the takedowns, the clinch work, and all that. But yeah, I mean, we saw a little bit of his evolution in the Gilbert Burns fight with the jab he was throwing. That was kind of the difference maker in the fight. And now in this one, just adds to his arsenal. Just a complete bomb of a right hand. And we've never seen Masvidal has been knocked down, but I mean he was out before he even hit the ground. I mean he went out, landed on top of Usman, and then hit the mat right after. I mean, it was just perfectly set up, perfectly timed, and just some vicious power behind it. So yeah, was not expecting the fight to go that way at all. If anything, I thought Masvidal would be doing that to Usman.
It was so impressive. And again, do you agree with Usman being put in the #1 pound for pound spot this morning?
Yeah, I mean, he's at the point where he's already beat, the who's who of his division, that's actively fighting right now. And now he's going to start, going for second wins against these guys because there's really no one else. So yeah, I mean, there's no one really as dominant as him as an active fighter right now, besides Jones and Khabib, who just retired. But I think when you look at his skill set and the way he's evolved, I mean, with Khabib, he was just mainly a grappler, but Usman's just adding all other facets to his game, and he's only getting better. I think his next fight with if he does fight Covington. I don't. I know that's kind of been unofficially announced, but I don't know. I'm kind of scared for Colby after seeing that.
Yeah, and I was gonna get into that next, saying obviously Colby's much deserving to be next in line. Colby did get TKO'd by Usman in the 5th round, but it was one of the best fights I've ever seen. Two grapplers, two wrestlers standing up the entire night, I think was so unexpected. I would love to see that run back. I agree with you, man. I think Usman his striking has evolved ever since he went to go train with Trevor Whitman. His striking has just been fucking next level. He's just training partner is Justin Gaethje, so of course his striking was going to get better. Of course he was going to hit harder. And I agree. I'm scared for Colby. I think he's going to get knocked the fuck out. Because this dude's unbeatable. This dude's unbeatable. I think Colby had the best chance to beat him that night, and he could have. If Usman didn't get the finish, Colby could have definitely got his hand raised in that fight. It was either 2-2 heading in there or 3-1 someone, right? So this dude is just lapping people at this point. Masvidal talked a lot of shit, said he was going to baptize him, and Usman baptized him, which was obviously great to see. And he's not a trash talker. He's not this like character. Does he bring in pay-per-view buys? Maybe now he will, from the highlight reel that he just had, but he was predominantly known as this boring fighter. And anyone, Dana White said it best, anyone who thinks he's a boring fighter is out of their minds. This dude can hit hard. This dude can take you down. Dude can do everything in the octagon. So I think he's on his way to being considered in the GOAT conversation. I mean, the dude's on how many, he lost in his 2nd ever fight. You know what I mean? He's on a 18 fight win streak, undefeated in the UFC. Yes, he's been, he's lost rounds, but he's been dominant in almost every single one of his fights other than the Covington fight. Literally, and he still knocked him out, So this dude's on his way to just becoming the GOAT, especially in this weight class. I know he's got a lot to do to beat GSP, but I think people are even making the comparisons like prime GSP versus prime Usman, who wins. And it was a pretty even scale. They did have GSP a little bit above him, but GSP wasn't knocking dudes out like Usman's doing right now, dude. So I'm excited to see the Colby fight next. The lead up to it's going to be great. Colby's already talking all this crap about how he doesn't hit hard and all this stuff. So that's Colby being Colby. But aside from the Colby fight not happening, do you think Leon's next? I know the fight between Wonderboy and Gilbert Burns just got announced. If Wonderboy gets through Gilbert, do you think they'll do Wonderboy and Usman? Like, what do you think's next if the Colby fight doesn't happen? Like, do you think Leon deserves it after the eye poke? Like, what are you thinking looking at the rankings?
Yeah, is Leon still set to fight Nate?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, Leon
right?
versus Nate. So, I mean, even freaking Nate Diaz, if he wins, he could be fighting Usman.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that'd be crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think Luque is one of the most, I don't know if I call him underrated, but he's just not as well known, but he's an absolute killer. I see him, I would love to see him fight Usman, but realistically, what's going to happen? It'd probably be Wonderboy and or Leon if he beats Diaz.
Imagine Nate Diaz beats Leon and fucking fights Kamaru Usman. Insane.
Yeah, no, that would be pretty crazy, and I'd feel pretty bad for Wonderboy, but I think realistically that's probably what's going to happen. It's either actually is Wonderboy set to fight anybody? I don't.
Wonderboy announced today. Wonderboy versus Gilbert Burns.
Oh, okay.
A great fight there. Great fight.
Yeah. So yeah, it'd probably be the winner of one of those two fights, I would think.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And again, welterweight is bumping right now. And this is just assuming Colby doesn't get the fight, says something stupid, does something stupid, whatever. Obviously, Colby is the most deserving guy. He gave Usman his toughest fight in his UFC career. Hands down, that's the fight to make. But you got to feel for a guy like Wonder Boy, who's, you know what I mean? I know he's fought for the title twice, but the guy has just been trying to work his way back up. Beat your guy, beat Luque, beat him to a pulp, right? So I'm hoping, I'm pushing for a Wonder Boy title shot soon. I really am. He's deserving. He looks great in his last fight too. So I'm excited. Usman looked great. Shout out Kamaru Usman and new welterweight champion. And still welterweight champion of the world. This dude is so goddamn dominant. I think he definitely gained a shit ton of new fans. Knocking Masvidal out in Florida is probably the most, like, the coldest fucking thing I've ever seen. The picture of the sweat coming off Masvidal's just knocked out head was crazy. So UFC 261, in your opinion, buddy, one of the best you've seen ever?
Yeah. I mean, it might just be biased because
That's true.
You know, first time crowd being back since COVID, but yeah, I mean, I can't think off the top of my head a more crazy card in terms of, you know, kind of unexpected things happening. And yeah, every fight was good. You know, there wasn't a boring fight. There wasn't one that I didn't feel like I needed to pay attention to. Everybody brought it that night, so it was an awesome card.
Do you think the crowd had anything to do with it? Just like the energy in there, like everyone just wanted to fucking go balls out.
Yeah, because you never see prelims where the crowd is just going completely bananas the entire time, and it seemed like that whole Jacksonville crowd was just they were going nuts from the very first fight all the way to the main event.
It was great to have fans back. Dana said if he can come back to Florida every weekend, he'll do it for the pay-per-views. So I am so excited to see it. UFC 261, one of the best ever in the books. Fans are back, baby. I am just so excited. And then real quick, buddy, let's just preview the main event for this Saturday night's card. We got a fucking banger at light heavyweight. Dominic Reyes taking on Jiri Prochaska. I don't even know how to say his last name. We'll call him Jiri, right? Yeah. Dominic Reyes, 2-fight losing streak, John Jones, and then lost to Jan Blachowicz. Obviously, two just monsters back to back. People thought that he beat John Jones, put in an absolute just godlike performance against Jones, and then just shit end of the stick against Blachowicz. Taking on Jiri, who, I mean, this guy is on another level. He's on a 3, 6, 9, 12 fight win streak right now. Obviously a UFC newcomer. He's only got one fight in the UFC, but absolutely dismantling Volkan Ozdemir. This dude hits hard. This guy is a finisher. He has a finish in his last like 9 fights. Guy's a monster, and we're really going to see what he's made of. They're throwing him right to the wolves. Dominic Reyes is not a slouch whatsoever. This one's going to be a banger. I want to hear quick predictions on this one, buddy.
Yeah, this dude Jiri. I mean, I thought it was weird because I didn't know anything about him before he came to the UFC, and I thought it was weird they were throwing him right against Ozdemir in his first fight. I was like, that's pretty high ranked opponent to come into the UFC and face off with. But yeah, I mean, he performed. I remember he was kind of I don't know if he was like showboating or talking a little bit in that first round that I didn't like too much, but yeah, just the knockout that he got in the second was just crazy, and clearly has some high level striking skills. So I'm excited to see him against Dom Reyes. All I know about him is what I've seen in that Ozdemir fight, and I don't know. I think it's going to be a great battle on the feet, and I got to think that Jiri is probably going to target the ribs because that worked pretty well for Blachowicz. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, this is going to be a real test for Jiri, and you know, Reyes is going to bring it because he wants to get back in that win column.
Yeah, good point too about the ribs, because those got fucking eaten up in his last fight. So This is gonna be a banger. I think it's gonna be a great fight. Honestly, though, I'm going with Reyes on this one. I think he's got a lot to prove. 2-fight losing streak. We got a UFC newcomer coming in. I think he's going to put in some work. I think we're going to see some high-level striking. I think it's going to be a war, and I think Reyes is going to get his hand raised via decision, but it's going to be a good one. So I'm fired up. Guys, so many good fights to come. Just notables on this card. We have Merab taking on Cody Stamann. Shout out Cody Stamann, Flatlined alum. We got Sean Strickland taking on Jotko. Ion Laba taking on Jacoby. And then the featherweight co-main event is great. Cub Swanson taking on Giga. This guy is an absolute savage on the feet. I can't wait for this one. And then I know the Dillashaw, TJ Dillashaw had to pull out due to a cut for next weekend's card. So I'm not sure what they're doing there. I think they're putting Watterson as the main event on that one. And then UFC 262 in a few weeks, Charles Oliveira taking on Michael Chandler for the vacant UFC lightweight title, guys. So a lot of good fights to come in the next couple weeks. Stay up to date with all of your Flatline news, all MMA news. Go to our website, www.flatlinemma.com. Guys, go buy some merch for the summer. Go buy some tank tops. Go buy your mother. Go buy your father some fucking sweatshirts, some T-shirts, whatever they need for their summer needs. Rep Flatline. Go, read our blogs. Go to our YouTube. Click that subscribe button right down here. Like the post. Share it. Our Instagram's blowing up. We're a few followers away from 16,000. So thank you guys for all the support. You guys are the fucking best. We have the best fan base in the entire world. And we're going to keep churning out great content for you guys. So until next time, Flatline MMA. Peace.